Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Welcome back to the channel for another bike review, and today, as you've seen from the thumbnail, I'm on the updated for 2025 Kawasaki Versys, now 1100. It's actually the first time I think I've ever ridden a Versys, so it's all fresh to me, but if you're interested in this bike, stick around and stay tuned, I'll tell you what I think of it. Alrighty, so welcome back to the channel folks on this absolutely cracking late February day. It's a beautiful day, it's nice and dry, but it's flipping cold. It's about 4 degrees at the moment, or 5 degrees I've just noticed. So I am all togged up like you wouldn't believe, but it's lovely to be out in the sunshine in Blighty. Anyway, I digress. So the updated for 2025 Kawasaki Versys 1100 then, what's the headline changes? Well, first of all, it is now called the 1100, not the 1000, because it's gone from I think 1049cc to 1099cc, and I suspect that's as much as anything to do with getting it through emissions standards whilst maintaining power output and that sort of thing, as much as anything. But anyway, it's got slightly more capacity. It has had a hike in power. It's got some fancy new electronics, and we'll cover all that off in this review. But before we get on to that, let me show you around this bike. Alrighty, here she is then, the Versys 1100 in all her glory. Does look lovely in the sunshine, I have to say. The bike I think only comes in this grey with the green accents, which actually looks quite nice, but it's unusual, isn't it, for Kawasaki's not to come in the green. What I would say is the fit and finish on this is absolutely lovely. The paintwork on here is really nice, and it does ooze quality, I have to say. It's one of those bikes that looks better in the flesh than it does in pictures, because when I first saw this I thought, you know what, I'm not sure that's a good looking bike, but actually when you see it in the flesh, it's got a sort of a largeness and imposingness about it that really is quite nice. Let's check out these lights on here. I think this is the bit that I'm not too sure about, this front snouty bit. I'm not sure if I like the look of that. Some massive lights on the side here, look like they're those cornering type lights, and this being the SE and the top of the range one, the Grand Tourer, you get these lights on it as well, the spotlights, as well as some other bits and pieces like heated grips and so on. These are the panniers. I don't know if I can actually operate them one-handed. Let me see if I can. Now this is the first, because I've not tried to do this left-handed with the key. Let's see what happens. Hang on a sec, folks. Bear with me here. Okay, key like that, and then there's a bit that's probably to take it off. There we go. Oh, actually, there you go. Can be done. Oh, and complete with bags as well. I think the bags do come as standard on these, so that's all nice. And actually, remarkably, well, he says easy to do, not so easy one-handed. Let's have a look in the pannier, the top case. There we go. Let's how does this work then? I've unlocked it. That button. Oh, I knew this would be bad. Bingo, there you go. Turns out you pressed that button. Got there in the end. And again, there's also comes with a bag in that as well. So yeah, nice. So the baggage all looks pretty good. You do pay a hefty price extra for that. We'll go through the pricing when we talk about the specs in a minute. But yeah, overall, quite a nice looking bike from the nose back. Just not so sure about that nose, but otherwise a good looking machine. Alright, welcome back aboard the Versys then. So much for what she looks like. How does she ride? Well, I've only just jumped onto her. You join me actually in, well, just leaving Bourne End. This is Woburn Green, the next village on. And that's where Kawasaki UK are based, in Bourne End, that is, not Woburn Green. And that's where I've just picked this bike up. So I've literally just jumped on it. And as I said in the intro, I've never ridden a Versys of any type before. So I've got no sort of preconceived ideas as to what it might be like. But I have, of course, ridden Kawasaki's. And I am a fan of their four-cylinder engines, of which this has got one, of course. Now let me just see what it's like selecting neutral. Very easy on most Kawasaki's. They have that clever thing where basically when you're at a halt, that makes it easy to select neutral. I'm glad to say this is exactly the same. But the reason why I want to do that is while at these traffic lights, look, my feet flat down on both sides. Now we'll go through the spec on the bike a little bit later, but it's got a relatively high seat height on this, but don't be misled by that, because look, my feet are flat on the deck, so it's not too high to manage. Now the bike I'm on, I'm lucky enough to say, is the top spec machine. This is the, I think it's the SE, and it's the Grand Tourer, which means it's basically got everything thrown at it. So it's got the three luggage boxes, as you saw. It's got fancy TFT screen. It's got electronically adjustable suspension, by which I mean for preload. There's a little button here on the handlebars that says preload, and you can set it up for whether it's just you riding or you and a passenger or luggage, all that sort of thing. It's got the spotlights and probably a few other things I've missed as well. Go and check out the Kawasaki website for full details of what you get on the various flavours of the bike. But this one's got everything that you can have on one, let's put it that way. So let's just run through there what she feels like to ride. It's kind of, this type of bike really is your consummate all-rounder. It's one of those bikes that does everything pretty well. So let's start off, and what I'm going to do in this review is riding as many different sorts of places as I can. So we're in a little bit of traffic here on these sort of urban-y roads. We'll get out to some more country roads and some faster roads and just see what she's like on all those as well. But while we're working our way to some different roads, let's just think about the comfort of the bike. And the first thing I would say is, as you would expect, it's very comfortable. The seat is nice and big and nice and padded. It feels like one of those bikes you could ride all day long. Handlebars are quite low and nice and wide. It's not a stretch. I'm sat upright. Oh, there goes that Kawasaki 4-cylinder sound. Lovely jubbly, let's not get too carried away. And you've got this big screen, and this is also something that comes with this Grand Tour version. I think this is the sort of touring screen. I'm 5'8" on a good day, and sitting here at the moment I'm really nicely protected all round my sort of body area. I can feel a little bit of wind just hitting the very top of my head, and it's a little bit turbulent. So in the main, excellent protection, but there is some sort of high frequency turbulence off the top of my head, which is slightly annoying. Now that is specific to me, of course, my height, the kit I'm wearing and so on, and that will vary depending on, you know, how you like to ride, how tall you are. Even things like which jacket you're wearing has a bearing on how much turbulence you're going to get. But as I say, for me, I'm in the main in very calm air, just a bit of slightly annoying buzzy air at the top of my helmet. It feels really agile, this bike, actually, for such a large looking machine. Something I noticed about it as soon as I took it off the side stand was how light it felt. You know, when you see it, it looks a substantial big old beast, quite imposing, which is great because it gives you excellent road presence, particularly with the additional spotlights that this Grand Tour version has. But it doesn't feel anywhere near as weighty as it looks when you jump on. As far as what you're looking at here in the cockpit, it's all pretty straightforward. It's got quite a strange layout, I'd say, here of TFT plus analog rev counter. I mean, the TFT is absolutely fine, and it's very similar, that TFT, to the one that I recently rode in the S1, or the Ninja it's the Ninja 1100 SX now, isn't it? Get me terminology right. So that's very similar to that, but yeah, I think the combination with the analog rev counter, plus that there's something about that and the plastic surrounds that isn't pleasing to my eye. It looks a little bit 1990s, dare I say. That's just a personal thing. But yeah, the TFT is lovely, but the whole ensemble, I'm not sure that quite works. And then everything else we're looking at here, it's very straightforward. On the right hand side of the handlebars, you've got this select button, which you use to go through the various settings, obviously, on the TFT. On the left hand side, you've got much more complicated looking array, but actually it's not that hard to use. It's again very similar to the Ninja 1100 SX. It's got cruise control here, so that adds to what looks like a complicated setup, but it's not complicated. And then these buttons here cycle you through the riding modes. If you hold them, you can cycle through, and then, or if you just press them, it takes you through the various trip counters and so on. So all very straightforward to use. That nothing wrong with the switch gear, except I would say in my big gloves on this wintry cold day, I do find it pretty difficult to get hold of that indicator button. The indicator button is a little bit flimsy on here. That's my only criticism about the switch gear. The other criticism is it's got this USB socket. Can you see this? You might see it's wobbling around here. Look, it's really flimsy. I mean, it might just need tightening up on this press bike. But this bike, I think it's done 1400 miles, so it's not exactly old. and it is of course the latest model, so it ain't an old bike. For that to be flicking around like that USB port is just a bit naff. I think I'll be tempted to take that off after you ladies if I weren't going to use it, because it does look a bit, I don't know, flim-flam, doesn't it? Whoa, lovely smell of garlic through here actually. There's some nice restaurants here. This is the town of Old Beaconsfield. Very nice place. It's very nice restaurants. Anyway, without getting too distracted by that and the fact that it's lunchtime, I'm going to go and find a slightly faster road whilst I leave you and me to talk through the specs on this bike. Starting with the engine then, this is the 1099cc inline 4, puts out 133 brake horsepower, which is up from 120 brake horsepower on the old model, 82.6 foot-pounds of torque, which is up from 75 on the old model, and yeah, it's basically the cylinder's now got a longer stroke. That's what's given it the extra capacity. Brakes on the front, badged Kawasaki. They are 4-pot calipers on 310mm discs. On the back, can you see the single pot caliper? That is now on a 250mm disc. Used to be a 240 on the older bike. Suspension on the front, 43mm upside down fork with preload and rebound adjustment. On this one, of course, being the SE, it's got the electronically adjustable suspension. On the rear, can you see in there, single shock with rebound and preload adjust. And as I say, this SE model gets that electronic skyhook suspension. Seat height on the bike is a lofty sounding 840mm, but in reality, it's pretty easy to handle even if you're a shorty like me. Weight of the bike is 233 kilograms dry or 255 kilograms curb mass according to Kawasaki. Tank capacity is 21 litres on the bike. Let's talk electronics. The bike has a 6-axis IMU for lean angle ABS stuff, 3-level traction control, power modes, cruise control. It's got that handlebar mounted USB port, the LCD screen and LED lighting all round. Price wise, the bike starts at $11,899 according to the Kawasaki website. The Tourer, which comes with the pannier, the bags and the bigger windscreen, is $12,849, and if you want the Grand Tourer with the top box as well, that's $13,799. But do check out the Kawasaki website for all the details of the different options available. Okay, welcome back, and hoping that this road was going to be a little bit faster, but it's actually quite busy out today, so as we were right, I guess we're coming out at lunchtime. But let's just have a little think about how the bike rides. Now, I've got this in road mode at the moment. It's got rain, road and sport, and they do, you know, the usual things. They just give you a bit more traction control and ABS if you're in rain mode, damps down the throttle a bit as well, I think, and then as you go up to sport you get less intrusion from that sort of thing. I believe it has a 6-axis IMU on here now, so those are all lean angle sensitive as well, so that's all good. And the ride itself is really, really nice. It's got that typical super smooth Kawasaki 4-cylinder characteristic. I own a Kawasaki 4-cylinder myself. I have the Z900 RS, completely different bike to this, but it does have a 4-cylinder Kawasaki engine. I absolutely love it. That is the standout part of that bike for me. And I think along with the comfort, that's the standout part of this bike as well. It's had that slight increase in horsepower for this latest version. It certainly feels sprightly even in road mode. I don't want to go too mad because I've got a brand new set of tyres on here that Kawasaki UK have just fitted, so I want to be a bit careful. But yeah, this is no slouch, this bike, I can tell you. If you went off touring on this and you got to your destination, the Alps or wherever, I think you could have a lot of fun ripping this around the roads. Within reason, of course. Blimey, look how busy this is. This is crazy. There was me hoping for a quiet ride. Oh, pretty good brakes on here. Very nice. A little bit of fork dive on there, as you may notice, but not as much as I expected. They are a bit on-offy, but they certainly work all right. There's no problem with the front brakes anyway. Let me just try the rear. Yeah, and the rear is absolutely fine. Classic classic motorcycle rear brake. It does its thing, but it's not exactly super sharp, but then you never get that on rear brakes, do you? But that's absolutely fine. Pleased that this SE model has the heated grips. Definitely need them today. And I mentioned earlier about the sort of road presence that this bike has because of its physical size. Not only that, of course, but when you're in traffic like this, you are sat up nice and high here because you're, you know, in an upright position, and you can see over all the traffic. You can work your lines through if you're going to go for a bit of filtrage or whatever. Actually makes it a very nice bike in traffic. Although with the panniers on, it's quite wide, so you'd have to be a bit careful if you're going to do some filtering. The suspension on here feels lovely to me actually. This road is pretty shocking in terms of its road surface. You can see in the middle there where I was just riding, well, it's got better now, it was pretty rough. But it's eating up all that scrapey rubbish in the middle very nicely. I mean, I suppose the bike it reminds me of most, the one that I'm most familiar with, is my BMW GS, and that is high praise indeed, because that is a bike that is known to be extremely comfortable, and this is up there with it. It's absolutely fine. The windscreen on here is adjustable manually via these two thumb screws here. Obviously it's not something you're going to do while you're on the move, but you can adjust it, set it how you like. I've got it in the sort of halfway setting at the moment. I dare say if I put it in the high setting, it would get rid of that bit of turbulence on the top of my helmet, as I mentioned before. Right, there's a rare bit of dual carriageway just there, so what I want to do is just adjust this screen up if I can. Come on. Oh, I see you loosen them off. Move her up. Right, that's in the top position. So let's just do them up again. They are a bit fiddly actually. That's not the best mechanism ever. Right, that's now in the uppermost position. I'm just going to have a quick squirt at 70 miles an hour down this bit of dual carriageway and see what that turbulence is like with the screen in the uppermost position. Let's have a look. Also a chance for me to wind her up slightly. The gearbox on here is lovely. Quick shifter. Beautiful. Come on Lexus, out the way. Alright, top gear at 67. So there we go. I'm at motorway speeds if you like. I won't go any faster than that. With the screen at its uppermost position, and in fact most of that turbulent air is now passing me by over the top of my head. I haven't got the annoying buzz that I had before. So at my height, with the screen in the uppermost position, it's alright on my helmet. I am feeling a little bit more breeze around the arms, it has to be said. But yeah, that's doing a pretty good job at higher speeds of keeping the wind off me, so that's not an issue. And the mirrors work nice as well. There's no vibration or anything there, again, as you'd expect with a bike of this type. All the things that need to all the basic stuff like comfort, engine, stop, go, mirrors, protection, it's all there on this bike. It's just those little things that you've got to decide whether you like or don't like. Things like how that display looks, how the bike itself looks, things like this USB port. But there's no doubt it's a comfy ride, I tell you. Right, I'm stuck in traffic on this relatively boring road. Let me go and find some better back roads, and let's just see what she's like a bit more, just to test out the handling. I'll speak to you in a moment. Okay, I've found my way to some more familiar bike testing roads to just check out what the bike's like on some more twisty handling. Glad to see white van up ahead is turning off, so it should give us a little chance to try the bike out through this little twisty section. Alrighty, here we go. Yeah, well, this engine has loads of go. They've tuned it so that it's got some good fat torque low down in the rev range, and unlike, you know, many four cylinders that you have to absolutely wind up to get the best out of them, this seems to have go everywhere, which is really nice actually, and for real world riding makes an awful lot of sense, doesn't it? Now I do want to be a little bit careful because the roads are a little bit damp and it is quite cold, and I'm on new tyres, but yeah, it seems nice. Quick shifter on here is superb. A little bit of tingling through the seat actually as you wind the revs up, which is slightly annoying. Not through the pegs or through the hand grips, just on through the seat where your gonads are, so that's not too good. Well, I'm sure some people like a tingly gonad. Yeah, handling wise it's remarkably good actually. For a sort of big standard all-rounder looking bike. Yeah, it goes really well through these roads. Just a lot of buzzing going on until you get it into the higher gears, even in fourth, look. A lot of high frequency tingling, which I'm not so sure about. Let me just come up here, which is my favourite rubbish road in terms of suspension. See what she's like down here, or up here I should say. How rubbish is this road surface? Yeah, handles it with a plum actually. That suspension is really nice on this top spec SE model, no problem there. This road is just shocking, look at it. My word. Does look a bit slippery though. So yeah, handling surprisingly good. So let's summarise then the Versys 1100. First off, what do I like about the bike? Well, what I like about the bike is it's got all the basics right. The things that really matter on this bike are right. So for me, comfort is very important, and this is just supremely comfortable. You won't find a more comfortable bike. Well, unless you're going to go Goldwing or something, but you know what I mean. It's as comfortable as a bike of this type gets. It's just as good as a GS, put it that way. So they've got that right. The engine is absolutely lovely. As I said before, Kawasaki know how to do 4-cylinder units, and this one is an absolute peach, and for me, probably the highlight of the bike. And it stops pretty well as well. Let me just try the brakes again here now. Let's just make sure nothing behind me. Let's give them a haul on. Yeah, the ABS just cut in there, but they're pretty good, the brakes. Just didn't feel quite as wooden there. So it stops and goes fine. The comfort is great. Wind protection is pretty good as well. So all the basic stuff, tick in the box. Love all that. Price isn't too bad either. What about the things I don't like about the bike so much? Well, a couple of things that are very subjective. The looks. Not too sure about that. It has got lovely fit and finish, but the actual looks of the bike don't do much for me. I really don't like what you're looking at here. There's just something about this arrangement with the analog gauge and the TFT. Normally I love analog stuff, but in this case it doesn't quite work. I don't like this indicator button. Small point, but with thick gloves on it's really fiddly. I'm getting used to it, but I don't like that. What else don't I like about it? Well, there is a bit of buzziness going on. And I don't like that so much. Handling is great though. So yeah, lots to like about the new Versys 1100. A few things that I personally don't like, but that's up to you to judge whether they're important to you or not. I would encourage you, as ever, to go out and get a test ride and see what you make of it. You know, I've got this bike for a couple of weeks. That's just my first ride review, just scratching the surface. In a couple of weeks time I'll give you more considered thoughts on the bike. So if you're interested in the Kawasaki Versys 1100, stick around, stay tuned. There'll be more videos on this coming along soon. Until then, this has been the Mr. Flyer. Cheerio.